מוישה!
כאן, אינדלה, כאן.
מה אתה עושה שם על העץ?
אני הייתי רוצה שאדון קליינפלד יהרוס אצלי קיר קטן בסלון.
אין לך בושה, גברת גלום. כל אחד יכול לראות מה שיש לך בראש. מוכרח להראות לחתיכה שלך שאתה איך מתנהגים בחורה. אחרת החבר שלך ינקנק לך אותה מתחת לאף.
אתה בטוח שזה בסדר?
כיף קטן וזה עובר, יא שחור!
I was like a confused teenager, and I used to write Mr. Grossman letters. I would sort of write, "Dear Mr. Grossman," telling what was going on in my life, and never send these letters. And once I met him, I was still at the army, and I wanted to see the Jerusalem Film Festival, so I wanted to see the films there. It was 20 years ago. And I went to a place where you go to the doctor, and there was like this soldier nurse, and I told her I'm sick, and she said, "You're not sick." I told her I want to see the film festival. And, so I took this thing that you
thermometer? Thermometer?
Yeah, well, I took it, and if you go like this twice, then it pops, your temperature rises very. So I showed her that this is very good, that I'm very sick, and she said, "Okay." I should have asked her out, but I was too embarrassed. I'm sure she waited for it. So, and I met Mr. Grossman in the Jerusalem Film Festival. He was walking with his friends, going up the stairs, and I was like standing there, and I said, "Mr. Grossman, I wanted to meet you so bad." And he said, "Well, now you met." He went up, embarrassed with his friends about these stupid soldiers standing and saying that. And then I met him again in 2002. I was again in the Jerusalem Film Festival. It was with Broken Wings this time. And I met him actually on the streets just above the Cinematheque of Jerusalem, and I told him I have this dream of making the Book of Internal Grammar, as it's called in Hebrew, making a film out of it. And he actually smiled skeptically and said, "Go for it." Skeptically because people tried before to adapt the book. And it's very hard because, as you've seen, it's a lot of inner monologue the book is much more inner monologue of the boy and what's going on in his head. In the film, I try to take out the plots and the inner world and find imagistic ways to show it as a film, yeah. And it took a long time to adapt the book, first because I couldn't touch it, it was like a Bible to me. I couldn't really change a word or write a paragraph, a dialogue, a line of dialogue of the boy, because it's like changing a masterpiece, you cannot do it. It's like changing the Bible, come on. And so it was a long process of really going inside the characters and letting them go through me, and one key was the relationship between the brother and sister, which was something similar to what I write usually. It was familiar to me, and this was like a key to starting to write it on my own. And I read the book a few times, as you can imagine, and then one day, I just closed it, put it away, and then I wrote the draft, and then I sent it to Mr. Grossman, and he read it, and he really liked it. He had these little changes that he could hear the dialogue of the 60s, so he would just he would say I don't know how many of you understand Hebrew, I guess a few. But there is this way of calling your son when he's in the neighborhood outside, and you say, "Tzachis mitanka, come up now," or you can say, "Tzachis mitanka, up now, come up you come now, or something like this, the way it was in the 60s. So he had these little changes that all the time, you know, kept me, like in the period, kept me, how do you say, excuse me, English, okay, you understand what I mean. And we had a few, of course, arguments. He really wanted me to make the mother. No, it was like this. I would call him and I would say, listen, I'm writing the part of the mother, and she's a monster. I cannot put it on film. What to do? It's too much. It's too much. The character is too hard. And he would say, make her softer. I should have made her softer in the book. She's a machine of surviving. And I would think to myself, when it's going to be on film, it's going to be even harder, because when you read a book, you can imagine it any way you want. But when you see an actress doing all the things that the mother is doing, it's very hard. Eventually, maybe Orly, the actress, did some softening for the character with humor, but she really stayed very, very, very hard character, and I believe that this was part of the story that couldn't be changed, because that's the story. That's the story of a boy that, well, eventually, from my point of view, will grow up and become an artist, probably an author. But eventually he tries to kill himself. You don't know if he succeeds or not, but he tries. And this is his mother, and you cannot ignore it. So that kind of stayed quite similar to the book. We went to what we have in Israel, democratic schools. I don't know if you have them here, but the kids sort of don't study anything, but they're
called free schools.
I always joke with him about it, that he cannot spell anything, you know. And he says, yeah, I reached Z or something. I reached T. I can spell till T. I can say the letters. No, he's sort of a genius. He knows everything, really. And so we went to these democratic schools. We put some signs. We got a few kids from them. He was one of them. His mother knew actually that he's going to play the part. She told the cast manager, I have your cast. Just don't know if you can acknowledge the fact that I have your kid here. And she was right. First audition, he just told a story about starting. I was teaching my boy to ride the bicycle at that time, and I asked him to tell a story about this. And he was telling a story about him riding the bicycle for the first time and falling, and trying to tell his father not to worry. I'm okay, Dad, I'm not crying, I'm okay. He was trying to, and he was very lovable. You could fall in love with him very, very easy. And then he did a few more auditions trying to say this text about this present continuous thing, which is very hard. You want to believe that this boy can really think of it and really do it as his own thoughts. And actually, in one of these auditions came the idea of the ball going in slow motion from his hand. And then the next thing is I felt in my heart that it's him, but you need your producer you need your producer to not just to how do you say, to agree with you. You want to feel that you're right, yeah, that he's with you there. So you have to show him 5 kids, yeah, the last 5 best, and you have to really have this poker face. You don't want to say anything with your stomach. You want to see his. And he said, "Well, I didn't know you were going to show me a bingo." Yeah. So then I was relaxed, and then we had to shoot very quickly because he was growing like crazy. His father is a chef. You know? He loves meat, steaks, hamburgers, simta, everything. Not a very kosher kid. so we had to shoot very, very fast. On the opposite, his best friend Gideon was actually not growing, really having the problem of error. So eventually what happens in the film that we are starting to build these ramps, I don't know, these like stages for the friend to walk on. And we are trying to bring Orly, because Orly is sort of a dwarf, you know, she's very, very small. We had to bring her up also, and the whole set was changing for him because he grew 5 centimeters while we were pre-producing and shooting the film. Now he's taller than his mother. He's okay. Got out of the fridge. Became very tall.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Anybody? Yes, yes please.
Did you lock yourself up in the fridge also? I'm very curious how that feels.
Well, I did almost everything that the kid did. I did it before also. I tried it. I didn't lock myself in the fridge. I went on the boat. Actually, first we had to try the boat because the boat is shot. It's no computers there. It's shot in the Dead Sea. So I went inside the boat. It was actually like a small thing that you do, we used to do laundry in from plastic, you know. So it's a small thing like this inside this polyester thing or something, and this was the thing. And so I went inside to see. I said, if I can do it, you know, if I'm not too heavy for this, he will probably be able to do that. But in the fridge, and also I went inside in the suitcase to have this feeling. We wrap things. You know, it's not. Sometimes he's really in the suitcase, but sometimes when we shoot his face, we wrap him with other stuff, and I wanted to have the feeling to see how he feels. But no, I didn't go inside the fridge. I couldn't actually. We never closed really the fridge door when him inside. So actually, when the door is open there at the end, and so someone is just sitting outside and closing the door. But the first time he got into the fridge, he closed himself. And I was panicking, really, because it's a really old fridge. And I don't know how to open it, you know, if there's any problem. But there was no problem, it was open very easily. And I told him, don't ever lock the door again. Don't ever lock the door again. But I think he wanted to have this feeling, you know, of how it is. He wanted to understand completely. Yeah. Yeah.
One last question, I think. Yes. Yeah?
1, 2 last
1, 2,
questions.
2, 3. 2, 3.
Do you have children of your own?
Yeah.
That
I have 3 kids. Yeah. I think I have twins. They're a boy and a girl. They are 8 now, and I have a baby. He's 2 years old. I almost didn't come here because of him. We were almost in the hospital last night. And he just couldn't breathe. It's okay, he's okay. Just got an SMS, everything is okay. And actually I kind of did this film for my oldest son, you know, because I was a boy who's not growing up physically, and it took me years I never really grew up very, very tall, but you know, this age when everybody starts to jump and you sort of stay behind, and it's a changing point in your life, you know. It's something that is, and I think I did this film for him and for me in a way, also for you, but also for me, for dealing with this, becoming a father. I know my kid is going to have some problems with it because, you know, we're not so tall in the family. So I know he's going to go through things with this thing about this, you know, about becoming, about growing up. So in a way, it was dealing with anxious fears for him, and of course remembering the way I was as a kid. Because the most, maybe, emotional part of the film for me is the friendship with two friends, you know, kids. The way that we can be friends as when we are childs is something that we lose, you know, and something that is so contrast. The colors are so contrast. The feeling of love are so strong, and it doesn't matter if your friend and you. For Aaron, it doesn't matter if his friend is also in love with the girl. It's okay. They can be in this triangle forever because he loves them both. And these little signs that he makes for his friend, this thing that you really see when you're a child and you lose, is in a way what I wanted to make the film for, to remind us these things that we sort of lose, to remind us of this feeling of childhood that we really cannot keep, and also he cannot keep, and he understands it. Also, he tries to symbolically freeze his memories in the fridge, to have them for him when he grows up, to have these memories, but you really cannot keep the child in yourself completely. When you grow up, you can remember him.
Last question, we had Johnny Benson. Yes.
Do you always use biographical items for your films, or do you make also other films? What kind of film?
Well, this is only my second film, you know. I did television dramas, series, but I usually, it depends. In the television dramas, a few times I really reached for my materials, sometimes it's not like this. I have to find a way to be connected in a deep way to the characters. It doesn't have to be from childhood, but I have to find a place to connect deeply to their story, so I can tell it. And I don't know, maybe it will change. Maybe next year we will meet and it will be a very light comedy. Oh, no. Broken Wings was not by a book. It was by life. It was I wrote the script from my life and this one is by a book. But no, it's not always.